I get this question all the time, Maria, and it's like, where do I find people that will want to pay me more money for the kind of offers I would really love to develop, stuff like that, right? Like, where do these people hang out? Like the question, and the fact is that we usually already know them, right? And through those initial relationships, we want to sort of tap into pockets of more people like that, and you can do this very strategically so that you never sort of find yourself in a place where you're like, I don't have anyone to sell these more expensive offers to, right? So that's really the question that we're answering today. The way that we're going to answer that is talking about networking and how you can network very purposefully into networks, right, of people that spend more money, right, for the kind of things that you offer. Removing yourself from this idea like this is a guessing game. Maybe I'll get lucky. Maybe I'll get in front of some people that, right. And instead doing it on purpose. And that is very, very, very powerful and extremely profitable as well.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Coach Tribe podcast. Today, we have a very, very exciting guest with us. A self-made millionaire and a women's wealth advocate, Merel helped more than 1,000 women become unapologetic female leaders who fearlessly demand what they're worth and get it. She's been featured on CBS News, ABC News, and publications like Forbes, and then many more. So you can see Merel is just incredible, and I am so excited to have you here. Merel, hello, how are you?
I am good. Yeah, I just shared before we hopped on. I just came from Lake Country up north in Canada. We saw an elk. We jumped in the lake. I have 3 little kids, so I'm refreshed showing up for this conversation. I can't wait to dive in.
I am really grateful, that you're in the state, and I'm going to take advantage of it and ask the best questions for our listeners to get as much value as they can from you and me. Can you please tell us, Merel, why should our audience listen to the episode in the first place? What will they get out of it?
Yes. So I get this question all the time, Maria, and it's like, where do I find people that will want to pay me more money for the kind of offers I would really love to develop, stuff like that, right? Like, where do these people hang out? Like the question, and the fact is that we usually already know them, right? And through those initial relationships, we want to sort of tap into pockets of more people like that, and you can do this very strategically so that you never sort of find yourself in a place where you're like, I don't have anyone to sell these more expensive offers to, right? So that's really the question that we're answering today. The way that we're going to answer that is talking about networking and how you can network very purposefully into networks, right, of people that spend more money, right, for the kind of things that you offer. It's sort of removing yourself from this idea like this is a guessing game. Maybe I'll get lucky. Maybe I'll get in front of some people that, right. And instead doing it on purpose. And that is very, very, very powerful and extremely profitable as well.
So we're basically going to learn how to leverage the power of networking to get those clients our ways, right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
I'm really looking forward to learn more about that. Now, I want to ask you why so many coaches feel are afraid about the idea of networking or even fear being seen as a social climber.
Yeah, for sure. So I think almost everyone has had either an experience where they tried to network and then they felt rejected, or they felt sort of, not as welcomed in a space, right? Which is real, right? This happens. Or on the flip side, somebody wanted something from them and it felt very transactional, as in this person, or it looked like they wanted a relationship with me, looked like they wanted a friendship with me. And now I'll all of a sudden understand that it was only because of the thing that I could potentially give to them, potentially like a door that I could open. And it feels yucky, right? So we're really scared to sort of up our game from a networking perspective, because it feels like we would potentially be amplifying either the rejection or sort of this yucky feeling of they're just using me. Right. So there's a whole cluster of reasons why people sort of feel hesitant. Right. But here's the thing, I don't believe anything is necessarily right or wrong or ethical or non-ethical, but it's more sort of like how you do it, right? So if you go into this with an understanding of nobody is going to be like the one person that's going to open up all the doors for me, but rather I talk to enough people so that I don't have to put the pressure on any of these relationships, right? And then at one point, one is going to work out. So it's more about the practice or the ritual of doing this work every single day and having some conversations every single day is what I highly recommend, rather than sort of trying to land one or forge one relationship with one person who you think is the person to lead you towards those networks, and then putting a tremendous amount of pressure on yourself, on the other person to come through. I call this very irreverently, an opportunity pimp, right? Sometimes we really feel like all the money and all the opportunities have to come through this person, right? And you have to simply say, no, it's like me, directly aligned with the universe, and all of these people represent potentials, right? Potential opportunities for all the goodness that I would love to receive in my life to come my way, right? And then at the same time, what I do as well to minimize that ick factor is that every single day I show up being the person that I would love to encounter, right? So instead of saying, I'm just always sitting over here, like waiting for the opportunities for people to open some damn doors, right? I'm like literally creating opportunities for at least 4 or 5 people every single day, right? Throwing an introduction, inviting them to speak inside of my program, like whatever it is. Instead of like waiting to receive, I'm giving, and it just speeds everything up, right? So and then they want to reciprocate. They want to do something for you because you did something really valuable for them.
I get it.
If you're listening to this, you're probably trying to build and scale your online business. Am I right? Then we have just the thing for you, and it's free.
We're building Pensite to enable people like you to set up your online store and monetize your knowledge via courses, one-to-one sessions, group coaching, digital products, Q&As, and bundles. It's purpose-built for you with bonus features such as video recordings, private notes for each client, Zapier integration, calendar sync, analytics, and much, much more to handle your scheduling automatically, accept payments, and help you scale your business.
Check it out at pensighd.com.
Now we understand, let's say, why this is important. But I want to ask you, can you start from literally scratch and tell us even what networking is, especially in the context of coaching industry? And then break that down for us. What are the best principles that we need to start applying in our own business?
Yeah. So for me, networking starts, like, funnily enough, with ourselves, right? So it's like, this is not going out into the world, forging relationships just yet. This is actually first sitting with, what would I ideally love to receive? What, like, I call them blessings, right? Instead of just like opportunities or money opportunities or profitable partnerships or whatever it is, right? It starts with, what would you love to receive? Where would you love to be featured? Who would you love to collaborate with or be in the presence of, right? Certain people where you feel like, hey, there's something there. I'd love to be in the room with them. I'd love to be appear to them, right? Or maybe it is the sense that you feel that if you had some amazing affiliate partnerships, right, you could sell out more programs. And so who would you love to like have as your affiliate partners? We're getting really clear on what you desire. So if anyone is listening to this, right, just pause it and go write down 10 things that you would love to receive. I've always been really clear on this. I've always like set my sights like really, really high, even when I was a total newbie. So I was like, literally, it took me about 6 weeks after I started my business, but 6 weeks later, I was already asked to be on panel, like an expert conversion copywriter, simply because I showed up very, very consistently in, for example, the Facebook groups of the people that I wanted to be on the radar of, right? I would show up, I would post quality content, I would help out community members, really just be visible and be very generous But also really make sure that, this person was probably scrolling through their own group, seeing me contribute, right, in really beautiful ways. And so that's really what it starts with, right? Like if I was just sort of going like, well, I'm going to show up in 10 Facebook groups, like, I don't know exactly why these 10 Facebook groups when I'm just going to like do this thing, right? Then it's like without discernment and without like really consciously shaping the effort. And that's when people can get really tired, right? And sort of burned out because they're all over the place. If you choose very, very carefully, who do you want to be on the radar of? And then show up in those communities, give tremendous value, right? Make sure that you're visible, that you're building credibility through the kind of posts that you're making. And quite honestly, for me, because I started out as a conversion copywriter, these days I mentor women in business, but I started out writing copy. So what I would do, and I mean, this is ballsy, this is very audacious, but I would just like read lots and lots of articles and then sort of ask myself, well, what did I learn today? Right? What did I learn today? What like was inspiring to me? What sort of lit me up as in like, ooh, I'm going to use this myself in my copy skills toolbox. And then I would write a post about that, right? Not copying the information, but sort of like taking it, pouring my own sauce over it and drawing some interesting conclusions, making it more appealing to the people that I potentially also wanted to work with. That would be my daily post. And I would do that maybe like 4 times a week. And it was amazing. Like I had so many people reaching out to me, wanting to work with me. Sometimes I would reach out to them. So it can be really, really simple, right? So what I would say is that, just to summarize it, it starts with you knowing what you actually desire, right? That comes first. If you don't know what you want as an outcome of all your networking efforts, then you're probably gonna stop. And you don't want to stop because this is like one of the most high leverage activities in your business, right? When people ask me like, why should I spend time networking? It's because it just takes one person, right? One door to open and all of a sudden you're in a completely different level of business, right? This is also why I love being so much in like coaching programs and going to events and stuff like that, because you get to know people who then all of a sudden introduce you to someone, right? Might not just always be like that initial connection, but the connections through that one connection that lift you from, being just another coach, right? For example, to all of a sudden discovering something about yourself and how everything clicks into place. And all of a sudden you realize like, the years out and I've made, $1.5 million because the program took off and I had some people to back it and to support me in building some credibility around this. So the way to see networking basically is, I like to call it like fertilizer. I'm a farmer. I live on a biodynamic farm in Canada and we grow our own food and we practice permaculture principles. But like every year we take our green garbage, right, and we turn it into stuff that we can then like put on our vegetable plots, and then everything grows so much better, right, the next year. But it's that the stuff that you put in the soil, right, that in the end determines like the success of your entire effort. Right. So when the soil is nourished and your plants are properly fertilized, right, like they'll just grow and flourish. And when the soil is poor, right, they'll just be like little sprigs and like nothing will actually come to fruition. So, that's really how I see it. It is the thing that will help you collapse time around your goals, right, and make things happen much faster. And it's rewarding because, none of us are here running coaching businesses because we want to work hard. We want to work smart. We want to, leverage our time. Well, this is one of the most important ways that you can leverage your time.
Got it. And I love the part with clarity and even with the soil analogy, because in the end, you need to know what you're planting to be able to know what to put in the ground to deliver the best results. First of all, you need to understand exactly. You need to know what the desired outcome is so that you know what you need to do. Now, just for the purpose of this conversation, can you define networking for us and what you mean when you say networking?
Yeah. So I'll explain like the practice that I have, because I think that is the most useful. So every day I wake up and I have something for myself, a practice that I call the Audacity Revolution. So every day I wake up in the morning and I ask myself, if I had 10 times the courage, what would I post? Who would I reach out to? What would I say? To whom? Who would I follow up with? Right. So I just go through all these prompts for myself. And the thing is that very, very often we already know, for example, like who we would reach out to. We already know what we desire. We haven't prompted ourselves enough to actually admit it and then claim it and then go and do it. So I start with that in the morning, right? If I had 10 times the courage in the case of networking, right? Like who would I reach out to? And then usually I have like a couple of names pop up. Then I usually cringe. I go like, oh my gosh, do I really want to reach out to like the main editor of the BBC? It's like, yes, okay, we're going to do this. Right. And then I feel all the feelings like any of you listeners would, right? Where it's like, but am I ready? Am I worthy? Am I this? And I just go like, inner critic, I love you. I'm just going to like put you on a little chair in the corner of my room while I go and do this thing. Right. And we're just going to see it as a game. We're not going to have any expectations. We're just going to reach out to, for example, one of the main editors at the BBC. So, and then I do, and I do a couple of those every single day. And it's not just about reaching out; it's also about following up and actually building that relationship. But at one point, you hit like a critical volume where it starts to pay off. So you could do this for weeks and not have like an initial result, as in like, the podcasts aren't flowing into your, like the invitations aren't flowing in your inbox just yet. And you're not getting featured in, right, all of these big magazines just yet. And right, you're not finding like the perfect, like super well-positioned, like affiliate partners and referral partners, right? Or you don't get a commitment just yet. Just hold on, just keep going. And at one point it's gonna tip. And then all of a sudden there's like this momentum. So there's almost like a silent momentum at first where you can't quite see the outcome just yet. And then all of a sudden it tips into also having like that tangible momentum of like invitations coming in, you being asked to speak on certain stages, right? So this is like the action. And I will say that networking, right, to just go back to like, what is the definition? It only works when you're clear about who you are, right? What your methodology is, who you serve, why it matters, right? So those are definitely some questions that you also want to answer and continue to be curious about, right? So that you also know how to introduce yourself and what you want them to say when you're not in the room, right? On the behalf of your business. So if I were to define networking, it's like finding the clarity of understanding who you are, also like in the marketplace, right, in your industry, and then pairing that with daily action, right? Couple of people every single day, couple of people you follow up with, couple of people you reach out to, couple of people you tag that you might have followed for a long time, maybe you admire them, and then hitting that critical volume. Now the thing is that it is going to involve a lot of rejection, right? Or rather sort of like non-action, right? Like you're not getting a response. You tag someone and that person doesn't go like, hey, who are you? Like, let's work together, right? It's like, that's not always going to happen. Right. And some people, you will reach out to and they will say like, how dare you like be in my inbox? Like, what the hell? Right. And that's okay. Right. I think as coaches, as business owners, we get to decide what game we play, right? Do we want to play the game where we don't rock the boat and everybody is our friend? We are sort of like so polished in our opinion and so safe that nobody ever takes any offense. That's not the game I play, right? I literally have people who will message other people to stay away from me because I'm so opinionated and I'm so specific, right? That some people like literally are scared of me, right? They're like, oh, like, I don't know. Like it's so specific and so opinionated and so audacious that it does rub some people the wrong way. That's the game I love to play, right? So it's almost like you have a choice to make. Do you want to play it safe or do you want to play it big? Playing safe has certain right benefits to it. Playing it big also does, including millions of dollars.
Got it. Well, now that's definitely more clear. And we also got some super interesting insights over there. Now, who are those people? Because from my understanding, so the network of a coach means multiple figures which can somehow add value to your journey or make you move forward in your coaching journey. And I wanted to ask you specifically for coaches who are building their businesses, who are those people who can move the needle? Who should they be on the lookout for? And how can they leverage those people to move forward?
Yeah, I think, the thing is that it's really surprising, Maria. So, people always say like network up, right? Network with people who have bigger audiences than you have, network with people who have more influence than you have, more income. And I disagree. I had a really good conversation about this with Adela Hussein, who helps people get featured in the press. She's actually in the UK. You should definitely have her on this show. And we were talking about this, and what she said is, and I fully agreed, is that we need to network like up, down, and sideways, because you never know who that person knows, right? So it is not as straightforward as you think, right? You might have a really interesting conversation with somebody in your audience who can't afford you just yet. Right. And some business mentors would say, like, don't spend your time there. Don't waste your time. It's a waste of time. I don't believe this. Right. It's like that person might be in the ear of someone that could open a door for you that could make all the difference in your business. Right. So being kind and fully present and really generous to people who you might feel have less influence than you have, people that have the same kind of influence that you have, people that have more influence than you have, and treating them with the same level of respect and the same level of kindness and the same level of generosity is actually the key. And not only does this benefit you, it's also just a good thing to do. It's the right thing to do. I have had so many times that I was spending time with somebody in my audience who I know probably won't be able to work with me for another couple of years, right? Because they're two sort of like starting phases in their business. I work with people who are a little bit more established. And then all of a sudden they were like, oh, by the way, I want to introduce you to, right, this podcast host. And it would be like a really big podcast, right? Little did I know. Right? It always looks different than you think. You can't really say upfront, like, who actually has the most influence. And then the other thing that Adela was saying that I so love is she also said, you never want to go straight for the bullseye. Right? So if there's one person you feel that like there's something there, right? You simply use your instinct here as well. And I do this thing with my nose because I always say to my clients, like, you need to use your sniffer. Right? So where are the opportunities? Where do you feel, right, the path is? Like, do you know this scene from Gandalf when they're in Moria and he just says, like, let's go that way because it smells less foul. We have like this instinct, right, to guide us in the right direction. If you feel like this person could really make a big difference, and this could be anything from somebody you would love to be an affiliate partner, somebody you would love to be a referral partner, somebody who serves an audience in a different way, but has a similar type audience that you would love to serve, right? You could maybe collaborate and you could be in front of them, right in front of the audience. And it could be anything like an Instagram live together, or you could be guest teacher in their paid community or whatever it is, right? There's like all the things. But if you feel a person is sort of like that bull's eye for you, you want to connect with the people who advise that person. You don't have to go directly for that individual, right? And if you know enough people around this person, eventually one of them will put in a good word for you, right? It's only a matter of time. What I really want people to hear is that they are so much more in control of this than they think they are, right? If you are even like a coach that has just started up, right? You're just starting to make some really great money, or you're a coach who's already established, but you've worked hard to gain the spot in this industry that you currently have, right? The next level for you can be unlocked by one beautiful connection, one well-placed like introduction, like whatever it is, right? And you actually get to create that, but you have to know what you want, and then you have to actually go after it. And I just want to add a little bit of something around excuses versus actually very tangible wounds that people have around visibility, right? Everybody has their own lived experience. Everybody has their own background. Everybody has their own great stories and experiences of how their like audacity to put themselves out there was received, right? So I don't want to just sort of say like, oh, you're full of excuses. No, you might have very valid concerns based on, right, who you are in the world and what your experience has been around reaching out to people and being audacious and being joyfully, right, playing this game. Your concerns are real, right? And they're there for a reason. What I would say though, right, is that every person has to find their way. Don't just accept that this is your reality. Like we slowly but surely get to change those stories. We get to maybe also be very discerning about what kind of networks we tap into to set ourselves up to receive kindness and to receive reciprocity and right, all of those things. But there might first like be a need for some healing as well. I don't believe in one or the other. It's like we need both. We need healing. Like I'm in therapy. I work with coaches on healing some past wounds, but then also you gotta at one point then also just go and do it and encounter whatever comes up for you and work through it, right? It's just the only way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, okay, my question is when it comes to networking, what are some to-dos and what are some things that we should not do?
Yes. So like I said, you need to do it with enough people so you don't have to put pressure on any of those relationships, right? There is never a like, why haven't you sent me this opportunity yet? Sort of like moment, right? In the relationship, that should never happen. You want to be detached from the outcome as much as you can, right? Because otherwise you're setting yourself up for resentment, which then makes that relationship feel very yuck, probably for both people involved. So enough people to still be able to detach from the outcome, right? Make it a daily practice so that it becomes normal for you, right? And also, I would say the other thing is expect rejection at times. Expect people to maybe even respond to you and going like, how dare you reach out to me? That is probably going to happen at some point, right, on this journey. But most of the time, it's about being really tenacious and following up with people who haven't responded yet. See if they are ready now, maybe a couple months later, maybe slightly shift angle and sort of like the way that you're reaching out to this person. And really seeing it as a practice rather than a, let's say like there's, the person who does this every single day and builds sort of up to that volume, right, where things start to pay off. Versus a coach who maybe reaches out to one person they would love to be connected with like twice a year, right? It's like, oh my God, I can't believe I reached out to this person. And then hopes and prays that that's going to work out. Where it's like, no, you want to reach out to 3 people like that every single day. And then you want to keep following up with those individuals, right? And the people that surround those individuals. That is what's going to put the power back in your hands and it will give you what you desire, right? In the end, even if it doesn't look like what you were expecting. Now, don'ts, I would say, are really around expecting some kind of reply, expecting people to be very positive in their initial response to you. Another don't, I would say, is not reaching out to enough people. Having really expectations, putting lots of pressure on that relationship. Also coming to the relationship with this idea of I need something from them, but I don't have anything to offer. Can we talk about that for a second? Because that's really, really important. So
yeah, I actually wanted to ask you, I know there is, this idea that networking is about asking, but it's actually not.
exactly. So, for example, right, people in the media, they are always looking for high quality content sources. And then we reach out to somebody in the media and basically it's like, please, pretty please, like feature me in Forbes. When really you want to position yourself as, right, I have something really important to say on this topic, right? And I think this will contribute to articles that you're already writing, right? It's a completely different approach. And media can hugely contribute, right, to your business success because it lends them more credibility. I was actually featured in Forbes, I think actually like multiple times. So I'm definitely going to put that on my banner, like on Facebook. I've decided to just put big like Forbes behind my head or something, right? It does contribute to your credibility. But yeah, so many coaches reach out and they say, well, I just had this enormous business success in the last 6 months. Would you like to feature, right, basically me and my success, right? And that's what they're not interested in. So it's also really important that within the coaching niche that you have, which I hope you have, right? Micro niching is the way forward, right? And if that scares you, Maria, I have a really interesting article on this, like specifically for coaches. People just go to my blog. There's a blog post that shows you 5 like really playful, inventive ways to look at the niching process. But basically, right, it's like niching for people who don't want to niche. So if you have any problems with that, just like hit me up and I'll show you some fun, creative ways. But those micro niches and really understanding this is the kind of coach that I am, but also this falls within the realm of my thought leadership, right? These are the topics that I would want to pitch to the media. These are the stories, right, that I feel, right, are worthy of a bigger stage, right? That is hugely important for you to know. Again, so like a do is to have that clarity, right? So for example, I speak a lot on generational under-earning, right? Something that a lot of women experience, especially, right? Where you like look at your mom and you look at your grandma, you look at your great grandma and you go like, well, I want to break the cycle, like whatever it is. It's one of my topics, right? I have other topics that I consistently am featured on, right, in the media or in conversations that I have with influencers, like in front of their audience, right? But I have clarity on what those topics are. I know myself enough to understand what value I can contribute to other people's communities, right? So knowing that is a do. And then the don't is like, don't show up in somebody's inbox feeling that you need something and that you have nothing to offer.
And from your experience, because I'm sure like you've collaborated with so many coaches and consultants and business owners, but especially for coaches, something really tangible that they can do that connecting with that person can bring them value. Who are the specific players that coaches should reach out to?
It's different for every single person because the thing that I would say, Maria, is start in the network that you currently like already have, right? So this is literally the practice of going through your friends on Instagram or your followers, right? And going through your friends list on Facebook and looking through your contacts and sort of go, which people are either like really interesting to me or where I can sense like, ooh, they probably have quite a bit of influence or I see them as somebody I admire. Right. So you create a list of like 35 names, let's say, and those are your initial people that you reach out to. Because usually those people know people who could open doors for you and your business. Start with what you already have and treat the connections that are already here with a tremendous amount of like generosity and respect and adding that value to their lives, right? So that they will open up that next layer of networking for you. Now, the kind of players, right? It really depends what you want, right? For example, if you're looking to sell out a program, because it's one of the things that I help people with, right? It's like selling out their high ticket coaching programs. So much fun, by the way, whole other topic. So one of the things that you might want to do in that case is being really visible in front of great new potential clients, right? So you go through your network that you already have and you go like, who are the people, right, that serve a similar audience that offer something truly like different than I do, right? And you reach out to them and you say, I have something really amazing to teach to your audience, right? I think this is a really timely conversation. If you can add like the why now, that'd be great too. That always helps. And then doing, let's say, an Instagram live together, or you guest teaching in their community, or doing a Facebook live and that person's, like, let's say, Could be paid Facebook group community, could be free Facebook group community, or hijacking their email list and sending an email on their behalf so they don't have to do their email newsletter that week. You take care of that, right? You can offer up all kinds of things, but the key thing is that you really want to maximize the visibility that you have, right? So that new people get to know you. Now, the thing is that most coaches will do this when they're launching or about to launch. You got to do it when you're not launching so that those people enter your network, right? So you also need to have like a free lead magnet or something, right, that helps them really consciously step into your world. And then you have a couple of weeks to really nurture them with amazing email content or other content, like whatever platform you're on. So by the time you launch, right, there are people ready to buy, right? This is how you can set yourself up for success. One of the ways.
Got it. And I wanted to ask you as an overall question, what does one need to have prepared before going all the way in with networking?
So actually, you don't have to have much prepared. It's really about knowing yourself and what you have to offer. That is the most important thing. What people always ask me, like, do you need to have a website? Do you need to have like social media profiles, like all perfectly set up? It's like, yes, it helps, but is it necessary? No. So many of my clients, they come from sort of another more corporate realm, and then they want to be a coach of some kind in the online space. I just tell them to reach out to people and start conversations and post amazing content. That's usually all they need. And then, a website just becomes an afterthought, but then by then they're all are already at high 6 or 7 figures, right? So it helps to have those things in place. But also one of the things that I would do if I were a coach at this point, I would probably choose a one-page website, keeping it really simple, but really, really clear, right? Understanding what the call to action is. Right? Do you want them to book a call with you? Do you want them to enter your email list? Like, what is it that you want them to do? And then social media platforms, same thing, right? It doesn't have to be a lot. It doesn't have to be high volume. It just has to be really, really clear. Or, right, what you can do as well, if that overwhelms you, if you're like, oh, God, I have to write copy. Like, hell, I'm not good at this. What you could also say is just have this entire vibe in your business where it's like, I'm not on social media because I work, with people who crave confidentiality above all else, right? So it's like very much like by application only, or maybe even by referral only. And it's just sort of like step into this sort of like secretive realm with me where I serve my elite clientele. And no, I'm not on social media because I'm not for just anyone, right? So you can choose to position your business that way. And it will, there's lots of like very, very successful consultants and coaches that do that and that work via referral only. So then just play that game. If you're like, I don't want it, then you don't have to, right? It's not required in order for you to make lots of money.
Got it. And as we're getting close to the end, I know you said we can take all of these actions, just reach out, go on a live, maybe join a podcast. But how can we be strategic about this so that the actions that we take can actually add up?
So I think there are seasons in a coaching business where sometimes we just have to say yes to everything. If you are fairly unknown, the best thing to do is just to put yourself out there and experiment with which ones actually pay off. Because you don't know. You can't like figure this stuff out sitting in your ivory tower and then having the perfect action plan and then go do the things. I really believe in experimenting. So I know that a certain type of podcast will bring lots of beautiful new connections into my world. I also know that other types of podcasts are just gonna not really connect me with my ideal clients, the kind of people I want in my audience, right? This is only something I was able to learn through doing it, right? So I would say experiment, but then also close the feedback loops, right? Like our subconscious hates this idea of getting thrown under the bus over and over again, right? All the way to burnout, because you keep doing the things that don't work out, right? Or that don't actually pay off. So every time you do a podcast and that podcast is put out there on the internet, you want to see how many new followers did I get on Instagram? And how many new followers did I get on my email list? And how many people reached out to me directly to book a conversation, to potentially work with me? And then you simply look for more opportunities like that, right? So you go like, well, what made this so successful? And then you go like, well, this person has people in their audience that they serve with a different offer, but it's my audience, right? So who else would I know that does sort of the same thing and has, again, like a similar type audience, right? So this is also how you figure out, for example, who are your best referral partnerships, right? It doesn't have to be paid referral partnership either, right? It can just sort of be like an understanding of where you fit in the ecosystem of business, right? So I, for example, as a copywriter, was always referring to designers, right? Graphic designers of websites, stuff like that. Because once people have the copy, right, then the next thing they need is design. People who are really advanced in their business, right, after they work with me, they're usually in a really, really great shape financially. Now they're ready for higher levels of visibility. So I refer a lot of people to media, PR experts and stuff like that. So it suits them to position themselves close to me because I might just send them a whole bunch of referrals, right? And I also know that certain types of business owners or communities, right, potentially send me a lot of new clients as well. So you have to understand sort of where you fit in the greater ecosystem of online business, right, in this case, and then duplicating that success, right? Create more of those connections. Yeah.
Well, I think this is such a great way to end our conversation for today. And so thank you so, so very much. And thank you to the audience who stick till the end. It was all worth it. Now, Merel, I want to ask you, where can people find you and where should they reach out to you and learn more about you?
Yeah. So definitely come find me on Instagram. I do tons of Instagram, lots of fun stories. On the weekend, I had a story about an elk. It was awesome. He was like next to our car. It was great. But most of the content is really around, refining your niche, positioning yourself like really exquisitely. Also in this changed like marketplace that we're in, have to step into, right, confidently charging what your work truly is worth, rebuilding networks that bring you wealth, like all of that stuff you will find on Instagram. I have a free Facebook group community, which you're so welcome to join. It's called Wealth on Your Terms. So you can hop over to my Facebook profile and from there find it or join it directly. I also, if people want to, they're super welcome to join my podcast. It's a daily podcast. I do just like these little daily missives, just like thoughts and insights that I have as I'm, continuing to build my own multi-7-figure business. Show notes will just add like a promo link. Normally it's paid, but people who are like, when I'm on the podcast, you get a promo code and you can join for free.
I really encourage you all to check Merel out. And you're also going to find all of the links, including the article with 5 funny ways, find your way. Playful ways. You can find all of those and all of her socials on her Pensai profile. So it's very easy for you to reach out. And yeah, now, Merel, just before we end, I have a little surprise for you. It's going to be a rapid fire questions coming your way. 5 questions, 5 fast answers. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay, born ready. Question number 1. If anything, what would you change if you were to start your journey again?
I would probably line up more childcare. Yeah. From the start, as much as possible.
Okay. That's a new one, I must tell you. That is interesting. Question number 2. What's one belief that you've changed recently?
This is a hard one to answer like really, really quickly because I'm still processing this one. But for me, it was a belief around in order to support social justice that I had to like say certain things and it had to look a certain way. And what I decided for myself is that for me, social justice is about walking the walk. It's not about, talking the talk. So I actually shifted from my focus on saying the right thing in the right communities to signal that I care to actually really looking at my own backyard here where I live and going like, how can I contribute to things also like close to home? Because there are so many needs that anyone's local community has and so many injustices. And so I've really sort of stopped like focusing so much on what to say, which created then ironically the space for me to be a much more community member where I live. And it's been truly life-changing.
Love that. Really, really love this perspective.
Yeah.
Question number 3. Who are you most grateful for?
This changes every single day, but I would say today, like I'm really grateful for my mom. She definitely has always struggled to turn her gifts and talents, which are very, very vast, into money. But she would always start basically any conversation with, I have a good idea. And that level of like audacious, like confidence, I have definitely inherited. And it's really interesting because my kids don't speak Dutch. I was born and raised in Holland. So I literally hear my daughter say the same thing, even though she really has never heard my mom say it. Right. So it's like she starts sentences too, like, I have a really great idea. Right. And that confidence is just like there. And it's awesome.
I love that. Question number 4. One book everybody should read.
Ooh, I really love Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. I recommend it to a lot of people because I think a lot of, especially women, like really don't know how to negotiate. Actually, scrap that. I think people don't know how to negotiate, right? How to stand up for themselves, how to counter like unreasonable requests around like, how much access people have to them and their time, right? So learning how to negotiate well is a wonderful skill. The other thing I would advise is to read lots of erotic fiction. It's my favorite thing to do. I read it every single day, hundreds of books a year. And it's so empowering to just go into that Kindle app and start to type in what turns you on and then finding all kinds of books to line up with that and just to have something fun for in your downtime.
What can I say, Merel? You are a special one. I have to tell you come with all of this new perspectives on my fire questions. I love that. Last question.
Yes.
One message on a billboard for most people to see. What would you write?
I would probably want to put a reminder, something along the lines of, we tend to undervalue what comes to us most easily. And yet what comes to us most easily is usually our most valuable work. Most of us do not actually charge for the stuff that we're best at because we don't think to charge for those things. So that is a truth that I keep running into with even myself on like whole other levels. For most of us, our actual zone of genius work gets like either not paid for or is underpaid and definitely undervalued by ourselves. So just a reminder to continue to strive for that, even when it feels deeply uncomfortable, because that like the ease of that work, right? And then charging the most amount of money for that feels deeply uncomfortable for most of us.
Well, what can I say? Inspiring all the way till the end. Well, thank you so much, Merel. And I hope you guys had a very good episode. I definitely had a lot of fun with Merel today. I wish you all a wonderful, wonderful day. Merel, any last words for the audience?
Come reach out to me on Instagram. Just send me a DM. Like if you have any follow-up questions, if you have any thoughts, any insights, I'm very approachable. Just come talk to me.
Very approachable, very nice, and very knowledgeable. I wish you all a wonderful day and see you all for the next episode. Have a good one.
Hope you enjoyed this episode.
We'll be releasing every Wednesday, so make sure to
subscribe
and rate us 5 stars where you're listening to this show to give others a chance to discover it too.